Blady grass or cutty grass, we all know that it's difficult to get rid of in your paddock. The only way I found, and it's worked for me, driven them hard over winter, I'm forcing them to eat this blady grass, they aren't dropping too much condition. But there's one thing I found you must do to stimulate the appetite, forcing them to eat this cutty grass. I'll cover that further in the video. All this grass across this paddock here started off at that height and now it's been grazed down to that height. You want to keep them in a body score condition, optimally that 3 or 4, where they're not obese and you can still see a bit of that pin and hip bone. So it's beneficial while it's breaking down. The microbes use that food source, they take it back into the ground, and that's adding your organic matter back into the ground. The more organic matter you got in your ground, the more water you can hold. Photosynthesis, the sun and the carbon dioxide, and creating the energy in a food source in through for the microbe, or stimulates the cow to eat the food intake, and the protected protein meal helps stimulate the rumen to work longer in those winter months for the unpalatable material over the winter month. If you're pushing them through fast, they're going to overgraze all the other paddocks because it's not growing season. You're slowing them down to give that pasture maximum recovery. G'day folks, Jason from the Udder Farm here. We're actually out on the Udder Farm property today. What we're going to be doing is, it's in the middle of winter, we're going to be taking a pasture walk on where we're grazing the heifers over the winter months. And I'll start off by saying this is probably one of my least productive paddocks. I've got good pasture over there. Well, I say good pasture, there's probably 3 or 4 different species, predominantly road grass. But in the river paddock here, on this side of the timeless fence for the livestock it's probably only 25% roads grass, minimal other species. There's a little bit of white clover, but as you can see behind the herd there, predominantly, I reckon it'd be 85% would have to be blady grass, or what they know as cutty grass. And when it comes to blady grass or cutty grass, we all know that it's difficult to get rid of in your paddocks. The only way I've found, and it's worked for me over in my better paddocks, is continually keeping it slashed. I found if I've slashed it before it gets that foot high and it comes back with fresh green shoots, the cows will smash it. One thing about cutty grass or blady grass is it doesn't like being grazed. It definitely doesn't like high pressure and traffic over it. So if you keep it in that vegetative state before it gets too high, above that 2 foot high where it becomes unpalatable, the cows will eat it. And we've had areas over there that is totally all gone from an area. Because it's so high, the sunlight can't get through the grass, and you keep it in that vegetative state and the cows eat it, you're getting more sun through that area, which promotes other grasses or other species to grow up. So I found in this paddock, because it's 85% cutty grass, in summertime I find it very difficult for the palatable material like the Rhodes grass and the creeping blue and the clover. That's what they're going for. But as you can see in winter, it's virtually non-existent. They've eaten all of it now, but it's drying out because of the cold weather, and it's getting frostbitten, and also it's depleting in energy because of the cool weather is drying it out. You haven't got the hot humid days and the moisture to keep it actively growing. It's in a dormant state. And that's the opportunity I've found to get the cattle to eat the blady grass. I know you are driving them a lot harder because they've eaten all the other grass down, but then they're hungry and they eat the cutty grass instead. And that's when you can graze cutty grass. But there's one thing I found you must do to stimulate the appetite, forcing them to eat this cutty grass. I'll cover that further in the video. We'll go around now and I'll show you what they've grazed. I won't get too close because this bush is very prickly. Predominantly when we started, before we had them in here, you can see this blady grass in this prickly bush here is up to the bottom of my chest. The reason this is still standing is obviously the thorns on this bush. But if you have a look at the area in front of me here, all this grass across this paddock here started off at that height and now it's been grazed down to that height. Even though it was unpalatable, I'm forcing them to eat it because, like I mentioned before, there's hardly any more palatable products in here. So this is my chance to get this grazed as fast as I can. The idea is in winter months is, because you're not getting the growth in the paddocks, is slowing your livestock down over the winter month. If you're pushing them through fast, they're going to overgraze all the other paddocks because it's not growing season. you're slowing them down to give that pasture maximum recovery before you move them back into it. So what we're trying to do is only go through our paddocks twice over winter. We get them down to that 60%, and then we might run them through again and get them down to that 50%. By then, it should be spring, and hopefully get the winter rains. If you're not going to get the winter rains then we roll out the bales. Instead of sacrificing leaf matter or solar panels, we roll out bales, so they're eating bales rather than overgrazing the pasture. One thing I want to cover before we go and do this pasture walk, before I forget, is the condition of these animals. They've been in this paddock now. This would be close to, I'd say this would be 10 to 15 acres of predominantly, like I said, 85 Blady grass. But if you have a look at the conditions of the animals, this is probably half, if not close to 3/4 or 2/3 the way through winter now. If you have a look at the condition on these animals, have a look at the tail head. She's still got rolls on her tail. Min up here, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 rolls on her tail head. You can still see their pin bones and hip bones are starting to protrude on a lot of these animals. So I know they've lost a little bit of condition over the winter months, because in the summer months when the pasture is loaded and I'm sending them through, that pin bone and hip bone isn't pronounced. But you don't want obese animals. You want to keep them in a body score condition, optimally that 3 or 4, where they're not obese and you can still see a bit of that pin and hip bone. Also, what you're looking for on the left-hand side of the animal, you're looking for the death triangle. If you have a look at all these animals, it's not really protruding. Just starting to come there. So I know the condition of these aren't bad, even though I've driven them hard over winter. I'm forcing them to eat this Blady grass. They aren't dropping too much condition. As you can see, we've got nose ring on our weaners. They're due to come off in about 6 weeks time actually. So the condition of these aren't too bad. We're moving them out here today. I don't want to really run them through here any longer. I want to move them into some greener pastures because they're going to be calving in the next couple of months. I'll go around and show you her death triangle. It's probably, you can see it there. Predominantly for 2 reasons. We've late weaned her, and also her being the quietest of the pack, the older ones, which are more superior and dominant, push her out of the road with a lot of the quality pasture. So she's getting second-hand pasture that the other cows don't want, and that's why she's dropping in condition. But that's going to happen with all herds though. The moment you got the more mature and dominant ones, as they get mature, like 12, 13 years of age, and they're not giving you a calf every year, you're getting rid of them, and these young ones come up through the system, and then they will become the dominant ones, and the young calves will be pushed around. It's just a matter of the cycle. It can't be helped. So I'm above the creek here. This is probably one of the highest places on our property. You can see the amount of roads grass here. You could not see the cattle through this roads grass prior to this. I just wish I had a video. It was higher than their backs. All you could hear and see was the grass rustling, particularly behind there. The height of that grass would have to be at least 10 foot high. You could not see through there. There's a lot more of it over here through the leaf matter. But as you can see, they've stripped all the leaves off those stems now, and there's no way that is palatable. Because I'm driving them hard, they're forcing to eat it, otherwise they go without. You don't want to be doing that all the time. Like I said, you lose condition, but like I said, I always assess at least twice a week the condition of these animals. And if they're being pushed too hard, then I move them on or give them supplements. But I've only given them the lick block, which I'll show you in a minute, which is I use over winter in these dry periods. But you can see they stripped all the leaves off there. You see now, this is 100% Blady grass or cutty grass up here, and they are eating it. You can see in front of me here, it's all been eaten off. It started off that height. So I reckon they've eaten probably that 1/3, and in areas down the bottom below the creek, they've eaten 50%, which during summer, they would not be touching it because there's that much more palatable material. And that's why the winter mineral is definitely a must during winter time. So they're going to get deficiencies, then you get issues with your livestock. So wintering minerals I would say would be up there with the top priority you should be doing with your livestock, and monitorize them. You don't want them to get deficient in too much minerals over that winter, because when the tick season starts, that's when you're going to get issues with deficiencies in animals. Comes parasites. They haven't got the nutrients or the health to fight off parasites. And that's when you get issues with your livestock. This is a close-up look at that grass we're just looking at. As you can see, it's probably, if you go right down the base, that would have to be close to, some of it is at almost ½ inch thick along the base of the stem. Now that is definitely 100% lignified with minimal energy. They're taking the green matter or the green leaves off there, but I can guarantee in summer they wouldn't be eating it. I can guarantee if I didn't use the supplement that I'm using, they wouldn't be eating, I'd say, a third of the amount. Check out this area here. You can see how high it is there. That's probably 3/4 metre, or that 2.5 foot high. The stuff in front of it has been laid down. So you're still adding that thatch to the ground. So you're still getting the stocking density is high enough that they're laying this down. Hopefully some of that sap cycle breaks off and adds that carbon back to the ground. When it breaks down, that carbon is a food source for microbes. So it's beneficial while it's breaking down. The microbes use that food source, they take it back into the ground, and that's adding your organic matter back into the ground. The more organic matter you got in your ground, the more water you can hold. So as much as you say rose grass may be a problem grass, it's an issue, livestock do eat it under certain conditions. And also when they're laying it down in this state, it's feeding soil microbes. And it is green. You need a living root in the ground at all times. Even though it is virtually unpalatable most of the time, you're still adding, this plant is still photosynthesizing, so it's still doing a job. It's still putting that liquid energy, secreting it into the ground to feed the microbes. When the cows chew it and tug on it, you're getting those root exudates. It's converting photosynthesis, the sun and the carbon dioxide, and putting that, creating the energy in a food source in through for the microbes. So it's still doing a job. As much as people say, oh, I had to get rid of it, it's no good, it's still here for a reason. You sooner have Rhodes grass than no grass, because your ground is going to be bare. And like I keep saying, it's going to be bare, it's going to be naked, it's going to be thirsty, it's going to be running a fever. There'll be no soil microbes. They'll definitely be dried out. And then you'll have erosion issues. When it rains, you get compaction. When you get compaction, then you get erosion. So Rhodes grass on your property, it's not, even though it's not the best, it's still a good ground cover until such time as you can work it to a point where you can get rid of it. And like I was saying, this is a good telltale sign that we know that it's mineral deficient in your livestock. We know they're eating unpalatable grasses like we've just been through, the Rhodes grass and the taller panic up the top of the hill. But in through here, this is Lamandra. This is great for keeping the banks of the creek safe. I think Nick told me this is mat rush, it's called in the nursery, and the actual root system of that mats together. We've hit that before coming through here on motorbikes, and it actually just knocks you off the bike. It's impenetrable. There's no way we can knock them over. The rooting system is just that matted together. It's not going to push you over. I reckon if you try to put a quad through there, it would probably stop the quad in its place. But back to the subject, they've all been chewed off. In the summer months, they don't get touched. So we know there's a mineral deficiency, and that's why winter mineraling is a must. It's a good sign when the cows are eating unpalatable material like this, Blady grass, a lot of the wattle trees. We done a video, I'd say it'd be a couple of weeks back now, in that area where the cows come through in winter and ate the foliage beneath the tree that used to touch the ground. And that's where we seeded it. But that's telling me they're lacking in nutrients because they're not getting out of the pasture. They're eating what they can to get the nutrients. And that's a telltale sign that you need to head on down to your local ag shop or your produce shop and grab some lick blocks for your livestock. So there is a specific lick block I give to my livestock during the winter months. For this reason, I know the pasture is depleting in energy, and as you can see, there's a lot of brown stuff around. And like I said, this is 85% Rhodes grass and unpalatable material. So they're eating the Rhodes grass, the panic grass, they're also eating the lamandra, the wattle trees. They're low in minerals, so that's why a mineral block is useful. But the mineral blocks that were best beneficial over the winter months, I found, as I use the Megamin, it's got added urea and also it's got protected protein meal in it. See, what the urea does, the urea stimulates the appetite. Therefore, it's also encouraging, I'll wait till maybe she leaves. It also encourages, is she right, Dale? It also encourages, obviously, because the appetite's being stimulated, she put me off a bit here. She's also, I'll wait till Nick moves it round. What that does, when it encourages, when it stimulates the appetite, that enhances or increases the food intake. It's going to happen again. So and that's what the urea does. But as for the protected protein meal, what it does, because they're not getting the protein, this is going to take all night. Because they're not getting the protein, what happens is the rumen doesn't work effectively. So the protective protein, what the protective protein meal does is it extends the rumen functionality and stimulates the rumen function to work longer. So if you've got the rumen working effectively and you've got the rumen working longer, it's breaking this, generally what would be a lot of carbohydrates, low in energy, low in protein food down. So the urea stimulates the function, or stimulates the cow to eat, the food intake, and the protected protein meal helps stimulate the rumen to work longer in those winter months for the unpalatable material. So it gets to break it down faster. So that's why mineral supplements are absolutely beneficial during winter. What I'll do is I'll try and bring the video up. This is the block I put in here for the livestock 3 weeks ago now. And that block would at least be a foot long. That's all that's left. And that's been 3 weeks. That would at least be a foot long by about, I'd say it'd be maybe a third of a foot high. And I've got 2 bits left here, and that's been 3 weeks. So what we're going to do today, we're going to move them into the next paddock. It's got similar, but there's a lot more Rhodes grass in that paddock than there is here, and it's a lot more greener. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them in there for the week or week and a half. Then I'm going to grab another block and put it in with them the second week. Because I know they'll eat all the more higher in energy food, the greener pasture, so they don't need this to stimulate the appetite or the protected protein until probably the second week, when then they start eating the unpalatable. That's the first time that dog's actually stood there while the cows nudged him. So anyway, guys, thanks for hanging around. I don't know who was scared more, the dog or the cow then. But no, they're getting better and better with each other. They're still a bit wary. The dogs are more so wary. But anyway, guys, thanks for hanging around. If you like the content, please subscribe. It helps build the channel and it encourages me to keep going and making more content when I can see you guys are loving it. Anyway, guys, on behalf of Nick and myself, Nick's on the back of the camera. I hope you have an awesome morning, a great evening, and a terrific afternoon, wherever you watch this from, and we'll catch you later. Righto, we'll get ready to move these animals.